So number 10 on the QR code review gives us this polynomial function, negative 2x squared plus 8x plus 1. It's a quadratic, and it's asking us to put it in standard form and also known as like vertex form as stated on the review. So I'm noticing that the leading coefficient is not a 1, so I have to do some algebraic manipulations before I can do completing the square. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to do negative 2x squared plus an 8x plus 1 equals 0. So set this equal to 0 first. Move your constant over. So negative 2x squared plus 8x is equal to negative 1. Factor out a negative 2. That will leave you with x squared minus 4x. So be careful right there. Negative 2 times a negative 4x is a positive 8x. Now leave some space for that magic number that's going to make a perfect square trinomial. On the other side, we have a negative 1, and then we're going to add something in that box. So what goes here? So we take half of our b term. Now that our leading coefficient is a 1, half our b is negative 2, and then when we square that, we would get a positive 4. But notice that we're multiplying negative 2 times that 4 to give us a negative 8. And that's what goes on the other side. That part can be real tricky for students, so make sure you're being aware of that. So I'm getting negative 2, x minus 2 squared. Remember, again, this becomes a perfect square trinomial. On the right-hand side, we get a negative 9. So writing this thing, in standard form, your function would be f of x is equal to negative 2, x minus 2 squared, and then plus 9. So you can clearly see the vertex here is going to be at 2, 9. So that's the whole benefit of writing it like that way. Okay, part B wants you to find the x-intercepts. So what I do is I would go from this stage to get my x-intercepts. So I would do negative 2, x minus 2 squared is equal to negative 9. Divide both sides by negative 2. So x minus 2 squared is equal to 9 halves. Take the square root. X minus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 9 halves. Now just leave it like that for now because we want to get a decimal of this because we want to graph it. So therefore, x is going to equal 2 plus or minus the square root of 9 halves. So now remember, there are two directions you can take this. There's the positive and the negative one. So this is where you would bring in your calculator. You can use those baby blues in the classroom, or you can just see how I do it here. So I'm going to do 2 plus the square root of 9 halves. Here's how you do it. 2, and then plus second square root, and then I'm going to do 9 divided by 2. So notice how in my calculator, the 9 halves is underneath the square root. Push enter, and I'm getting 4.12. 2 decimal places is fine. So that's going to be 4.12. Now let's do the negative one. So 2 minus second square root. Again, 9 divided by 2. Move my cursor over. I get this right here. Push enter, negative 0.12. All right, I'll write that down. Negative 0.12. So that's how I get my intercepts. And the only reason I'm doing this, you guys, is because it's asking me to graph for part C. So I'm going to turn this board over. And it wants me to graph part C here by showing you everything. So the vertex was at 2, 9. So there's going to be my vertex, and label it. Your axis of symmetry is the line that goes right through the x-coordinate of your vertex. We know the a value was negative 2, so over 1 down 2. Over 1 down 2, because the a value was a negative 2. And then we also know that one of the x-coordinates is going to be right here, and that's going to be 2 plus the square root of 9 halves. That's like 4.12. And then the other one was negative like 0.12. So that's going to be 2 minus the square root of 9 halves. And that's how you can write it, just like that. So give me those points, right, on the graph. So there and there. And then I'm going to do my best to draw my graph here. It looks like this. And then the C value was a positive 1. So this graph should technically cross right there, but I kind of messed up on that one. And that should be there as well. So there's my graph, and I got that from the C value. Okay, so your graph should look something like that with everything labeled the way it is, and the axis of symmetry, of course, is line x equals 2, axis of symmetry, and that's how you do number 10. All right, guys, good luck.